2 ages, 2 borders, 20 and 18, science and something wilder. We slipped through the lab door at midnight to watch invisible particles draw ghostly tracks, and watched ourselves cross a line too. By dawn, one of us would be holding a secret that could change everything we thought safe forever. We did our first experiment when I was 20 and Christoph was 18. It was not in any syllabus, not under a professor's watch, only under a sky that listened through rain. Christoph had the idea. He always did, walking into quiet rooms like a weather front. "Let's catch ghosts," he said, eyes bright. "Real ones, with trails." "Particles," I corrected, because naming things was how I calmed my heart. We met 3 months earlier when he ran into me outside the physics building, scattering problem sets across wet steps. He laughed at himself, hair untamed, eyes serious. Freshman early, 18 and arrow swift, he felt like a spark searching for tinder. I was the careful one, 20 and always writing the rules before I broke them. We planned in the library, coffees cooling. A makeshift cloud chamber, a way to see invisible particles write tiny white signatures in air. He sketched a tank, a light, dry ice, fingers moving like he was conducting. "After midnight?" he asked. "After midnight," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. The lab after hours smelled like acetone, old paper, and dust that had seen everything. The borrowed key clicked, the door sighed. A red desk lamp made him look a little dangerous, which was unfair to me because I wanted him to be safe. He layered materials with the patience of someone who trusted his hands. When he gave me the bottle, our palms touched, and the room grew, precise, like a held breath. Outside, rain needled the windows. Inside, we built a night inside a night, coaxing air to the edge of showing itself. "I thought I would be a composer," he said softly. "Then atoms started writing better music." "What? Changed your mind?" I asked. "You did," he said, and the word landed in me like a spark, looking for tinder. The chamber awakened, a fine haze, then a hair-like line, then another, then a broad, stumbling path. "Alpha," I breathed, and beta. Christoph gripped my sleeve. "We are seeing the universe in a box." We watched storms smaller than dust write their secrets and vanish. My eyes stung. He had wanted ghosts. He got proof. I had wanted proof. I got something like faith. The doorknob rattled. We killed the lamp. Rain thickened. The chamber glowed faintly, a tiny galaxy between us. Footsteps entered, and a tired voice said, "Basement's supposed to be empty." A flashlight cut the dark, slicing benches and coiled tubing. I could feel his shoulder against mine, the thudding proof of 2 hearts. My phone buzzed. The sound, tiny and treacherous, felt huge. I smothered it in my pocket, breath hot, palms damp. The light swung toward the tank. The guard stepped close, peered, frowned. Threads of white winked into being, dissolved. "Huh," he said. "Must be the AC." He yawned, turned, and left. The door clicked. The dark softened. Christoph laughed quietly, a laugh that sounded like learning to breathe again. "We nearly got caught," he whispered. "We are scientists," I said, which made him smile. We watched until the last lines faded and the room remembered being ordinary. His shoulder stayed near mine, like a note held just a second longer than written. He shrugged off his hoodie and set it on my shoulders. "You are cold," he said. "From the cold," I lied. We cleaned slowly, as though order could protect us. When he reached for the door, an envelope slid from his pocket and landed at my feet. "My name is Paul, and I am brave in equations and rarely elsewhere." Still, I looked. A crest, a city overseas, my eyes catching on Dear Christoph, and "We are pleased to offer you." I put it back, upside down, as if unread could be a verb. He saw my face and saw me seeing him. For a moment, the storm outside and the one inside were the same. "It is nothing," he said too fast. "An option, maybe, a summer thing." "Which summer?" I asked. He did not answer. The key clicked like a period. We walked the hallway quickly. My heart could not decide what to wish for. Outside, rain had washed the campus to a soft outline. He raised his umbrella and let it cover me more. We moved close because the night rode us that way. "You will not tell?" he asked. "Tell what?" I said, practicing evasion. "That we were here," he said, and very quietly. "That I might go. I wanted a thesis for all this, a lab, report for desire." Instead, I said, "We were never here," and felt the lie glow. At my steps, he turned. The porch light made his eyes into two problems I could not solve. "We caught ghosts," he said. Then, softer, "You make things feel simple, Paul." "They are not," I said. "I know," he answered, smiling like a promise I wanted to keep and feared to try. He squeezed my sleeve, then let go. Rain hissed around our breath. That night, sleep would not come. I replayed white threads blooming and dying. The guard's voice, the closeness measured in inches and heartbeats. Under my pillow, my phone held a missed call from my mother and a message from Christoph. A photo of the chamber, a blur of veins of light, captioned with one word. Proof. What it did not say was louder. We had made the invisible visible and left the most important thing still unspoken. In the dark, I drafted a message I did not send. "Tell me if you are leaving. Tell me how long I have to learn the courage your hands teach so easily." Before dawn, the campus listserv pinged. A notice about missing chemicals, a reminder that cameras saw more than we thought. My pulse climbed. Proof, I realized, always asks a price, and ours was coming with the morning. Across town, thunder rolled, and somewhere, below my ribs, something answered, afraid, certain. By morning, the emails multiplied. Missing chemicals, keycard audits, a meeting with Dr. Ames. By night, Christoph asked me to meet on the roof with a second experiment and a truth he would not name. Between the two, a camera's red eye blinked, and so did the future for us. The email arrived at 7:12 a.m., a subject line like a gavel. Meeting request, lab access review. My coffee went cold in 4 sips. Beneath that, campus security, reminder, B12 access after hours requires approval. Attached was a PDF I didn't open. I stared through the library's thin morning light, listening to the whispered ceremonies of students opening laptops and notebooks. Christoph had texted around 3. Still buzzing from last night? I typed yes, then erased it. What I wanted to write was not a yes or a no, but a confession. You set something in motion I cannot control. I spotted him at 11 on the quad, rain-washed bricks steaming under shy sun. He was talking animatedly with 2 kids from the physics. Society, a jumble of wires peeking from his backpack as if it were a living thing. He saw me and tilted his head, a private semaphore. My phone buzzed. Roof at 8? Bring warm socks. Bring your heart, if you can. At 11:30, I walked into Dr. Ames's office feeling like a small boy smuggling thunder. He stood, thin and precise, a man who kept his pencils sharpened to a moral. "Paul," he said, as if the word itself were a test. "Sit." The window behind him framed the winter bare trees, a study in branching probabilities. He steepled his fingers. "I am not the police, and I am not interested in theatrics. But the building logs show your card in B12 at 12:13 last night." "Yes," I said, trying to keep my breathing from writing its own confession. "I left my notebook." "And found it?" "Yes," I lied, feeling the tender bruise of that single syllable. He watched me over his glasses. "Isopropyl went missing," he said. "Just a bottle. Could be a miscount. Could be nothing. I'm not accusing you." "You think I stole it," I said, small. "I think you are a good student with a dangerous curiosity," he answered. "And I think that when bright people make small dishonesties, they discover how quickly the world erodes beneath them. There is a fellowship letter going out for you in 2 weeks. I would like you still standing when it does." For a moment, I wanted to say everything: the clumsy radiance of our cloud chamber, the nearly caught heartbeat, the way my world had begun to answer to a boy's laugh. Instead, I nodded. I understand. Do you? He softened. I remember being you. Try not to make me prove how much. He stood, which is how he dismissed. At the door, he added, If there is anything you need to tell me privately, my door is not a camera. I carried the weight of his kindness like contraband. In the afternoon, I tried to study in the lab, but the fluorescence hummed like a nervous system. Christoph didn't appear. At 5, my mother called. She wanted to know if I was eating, if I was warm, if I had made up my mind about summer internships. There's a hospital near campus that would take you, she said hopefully, as if medicine could fix the part of me that loved the invisible. I might have other plans, I said, watching the reflection of the lab in the window. A ghost room. I don't know yet. You always know, she said, not unkindly. That's your curse, Paul. At 7:52, I climbed the stairwell to the roof with my heart in my mouth and a thermos in my bag. The air smelled like asphalt, cooling and distant. Rain. The door scraped open to a sky clean to bone. Stars insisted through the city's soft protest of light. Christoph had arranged a small encampment. 2 Geiger-Müller tubes mounted in a makeshift stack, black tape and borrowed lab stands, a breadboard blinking soft green, an Arduino cabled to his laptop. A red headlamp circled his hair like a minimal crown. He looked up and grinned. Don't worry, no stolen isopropyl. What is this? I asked, because the language of devices gave me courage. A coincidence counter, he said. If both tubes click at once, a muon came straight through. Ghosts from space this time. Will make the sky confess. You built this in a day? I've been building it in my head for months, he said. Today I asked the Physics Society for the tubes. They owe me. I did their budget. He winked. You brought your heart, right? I brought socks, I said, holding up my ankles. He laughed, and an ache at the base of my throat loosened. We knelt over the setup. He explained the coincidence logic, his hands tender with the work. You could measure loneliness in the distance between our elbows. He pressed the enter key. The laptop screen showed 2 lines of counts and a slender third line waiting for yes, events. The first solitary clicks were shy. Here, then here, like rain beginning. We waited. The letter, I said when waiting got heavy. He didn't pretend not to know which. He sat back on his heels, watching the dark. I applied before I met you. A summer at the Rutherford Institute in Geneva. I didn't think they'd say yes. My father did. He said to put oceans between myself and... He stopped. I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how to hold both truths in one room. What are the truths? My breath smoked. The air felt thin at the edges. That I want to go, he said, and it hurt me with its honesty. And that when I watched that first alpha trail bloom in our chamber with you, I felt my life become a different problem. And me? I asked. Very small. He turned. His eyes were a winter constellation I had not learned to name. You are the only thing that makes me wish to stay. The screen ticked. One coincidence, another. We looked at the numbers with wet eyes. 2 fools pretending. That data could save us from our bodies. I lied to Ames, I confessed. About last night, about the bottle. I figured, he said, because he heard the shape of me. I wanted to tell him everything today, too. But I don't know what we are yet, Paul. Neither do I said. I just know where my hands want to be. He reached for them. Our fingers met above the breadboard, above the quiet machine trying to catch the sky. When his thumb slid over the back of my hand, my heart started clicking like a counter gone wild. There was no study. For this and no defense. May I? He asked, so gently I could have cried. Consent made the space feel holy. Yes, I said. He kissed me once, then twice, and it was the quietest thing in the world, exactly the loudness of a muon deciding to go through a roof, through 2 detectors, through all the stories we'd written for ourselves and all the ones we hadn't dared. Behind us, a red light blinked to life above the doorway, a watchdog awakening. The laptop chirped 3 coincidences in a row. Somewhere in the dark, a door shut. We separated without letting go. "I thought this roof wasn't on the night patrol," he whispered. "I thought the basement wasn't either," I said. Our laughter shook, but it was still laughter. Footsteps came. The door clanged open. The guard from last night stepped out, squinting under the dim security light. He was middle-aged and tired, the kind of man who knew the stories buildings tell at night. His flashlight made our little experiment look smaller than it felt. "Evening," he said, voice neutral. "Evening," Christoph echoed, the picture of a boy with nothing to hide, which is an art. "What are we looking at?" the guard said, and was that wryness at the corner of his mouth? "A man who might have built radios in his youth. Cosmic rays," Christoph said. "We're doing a demonstration for the Physics Society. Outreach." He said the last word like a password. The guard's flashlight paused on the tubes, on the Arduino, on our hands not quite unclasped. He sighed. "You know there's a policy about the roof. And after last night, look, I don't love writing people up, but the cameras make suggestions." "We can pack up," I said quickly. "Right now." "We didn't mean—" "I bet you meant exactly," he said, and I could not read if it was kind. He pulled out a small pad. "Names and IDs." Christoph squeezed my hand before letting go, a fraction of physics that felt like losing an entire field. We gave our names. The guard wrote them as if he were recording a weather pattern. "I'll put it in as a warning," he said. "But you probably have someone important who wants to talk to you." He nodded at me. Dr. Ames came. "By asking about the basement. He's a good one. Don't make him unlucky." He let us go with a gesture that felt like mercy and resignation married badly. We packed in a rush that still tried not to harm the delicate machinery. The laptop chimed one last coincidence, a stubborn little proof of the world's ongoing theater. On the stairs, I laughed once and then put my hand over my mouth because it wasn't laughter at all. Christoph leaned against the cinder block wall and closed his eyes. "I don't know how to hold both truths," he said again. "Maybe we don't have to hold them," I answered. "Maybe we let them pass through. Like this." I pressed my palm against his chest. He covered it. We were a temporary apparatus, aligned. By the time I reached my room, my inbox had a new subject line that made my blood tilt. "Security footage review. Please report tomorrow, 9 a.m. The email had a video still attached, 2 figures on a roof, a red light blooming, a fragile constellation of dots on a laptop screen between them. Proof. Again. I texted Christoph. 9 a.m. Security. He replied immediately, 8:45, I'll wait outside. Also, I'm not running. I stared at that last sentence for a long time, then typed, me neither. Under the hum of the heater, under the weight of my books, under every good boy story I had ever told, a new music began to write itself. It sounded like risk. It sounded like a life you make on purpose. It sounded impossibly like 2 hands finding each other in the dark and staying. In the waiting room, our names glowed on a clipboard like charges waiting to discharge. One truth could save us. The other could cost everything. His letter, my fellowship, our secret on a roof. We decided to tell it all. The door opened. Someone said, begin. We were not ready. The security office was too warm. The heater clicked like a metronome for worry. A poster about bicycle registration wilted on the wall. Christoph sat so straight it hurt to look at him, hands folded over his knee like he was keeping them from reaching for me. A woman with silver hair cut sharp as a rule let us in. I'm Ms. Delaney, she said, Director of Campus Safety. The guard from the roof leaned against a file cabinet, eyes fatigued but not unkind. Dr. Ames had a chair already, a small island of tweed and restraint. Good morning, he said, and in those 2 words he offered a net. Ms. Delaney slid a printout across the table. a still image of two figures under a red light, a laptop between them like a confession. I don't love making dramas of curious students, she began, but buildings keep records. Roof access after hours, basement B12 after midnight, missing isopropyl. I would like to understand what happened, and then we can decide what happens next. I felt Christoph draw in breath and hold it. He looked at me. We had promised last night. No more half-truths. We built a cloud chamber in B12, I said, to see particle tracks. We did it after hours because we were afraid. We wouldn't be allowed. Were you allowed? Ms. Delaney asked, polite as a scalpel. No, I said. I'm sorry. We borrowed isopropyl from the teaching stock and dry ice from the storeroom. We returned what we could. Dr. Ames watched me with an expression that both hurt and steadied. You told me you went for a notebook, he said gently. I lied, I said, and I saw him flinch as if the syllable had weight. I won't again. The guard cleared his throat. And the roof? A coincidence counter, Christoph said. 2 Geiger tubes, cosmic rays. We thought it would be beautiful. It was, but we shouldn't have been there. I appreciate the complete sentences, Ms. Delaney said dryly. Here's where we are. No harm done beyond policy. But policies exist because at 2 a.m. stairs are dangerous, and teenagers make smart plans with dumb variables. I'll issue a formal warning for the roof and a conduct note for the unauthorized experiment. You'll replace the materials and complete lab safety training again. Relief arrived so quickly it made me dizzy. I grabbed the edge of my chair. And, she added, since you seem intent on turning the campus into a science museum, I suggest you do it properly. Dr. Ames? Ames steepled his fingers. Outreach demonstration, Saturday, Physics Society Hall, cloud chamber and coincidence rig. Posters, sign-in sheet for high school students from the city. You'll set up under my supervision. You will show the invisible without breaking any rules. That's the deal. Christoph's face changed in a way I will remember when I am old. Wonder added to being seen. Yes, he said. Please. Good, Ms. Delaney said. And if you must hold hands on my roofs, do it at noon like the rest of the mortals. I'd like fewer surprises on my cameras. She stood. The meeting was over, and something else had begun. Outside, the air felt clean as water. We walked without speaking until the science building blocked the wind. Then Christoph stopped, his mouth trembling like he was cold. You told the truth, he said. You saved us. We saved us, I said. Truth is a 2-person instrument. He reached for my sleeve, then put his hand in his pocket instead. The letter came, he said. He already knew I knew which letter. They want an answer by Friday. Wednesday pressed in around us. 2 days and the rest of the summer folded together like a probability curve. Do you want to go? I asked, because you ask for the thing you love even when it risks you. I do, he said, and it was brave and terrible. And I want to stay with you, and I don't know how to talk about both without making one of them sound like a lie. We don't choose which particles pass through us, I said, which was not an answer and also was. But we choose what we build to meet them. He smiled, the fragile kind you give to a thin idea that could hold. Then let's build something. We built Saturday. We filed forms, printed flyers, fought with a temperamental campus printer that ate ink and paper and maybe part of my soul. We signed out equipment by the book, watching the lab manager's eyebrow relax by degrees. We wrote a poster in black marker, See the Invisible, a cloud chamber, cosmic ray coincidences, a universe that will speak if you let it. At night, when we left the building like legal citizens, we swapped the language of circuits for the language of us. On a bench outside the student union, he told me about his father, who sent him vouchers instead of letters, kindness through logistics. I told him about my mother's answers to everything, which were either soup or worry. He showed me the Geneva program brochure, edges softened by pocket weeks. They pair juniors with graduate mentors at CERN, he said, eyes alight. They let us sit in the control room. They teach us to listen to collisions. And I get an email in 2 weeks, I said, my stomach steady and not. A fellowship here, computational work with Dr. Ames, if I get it. You will, he said, a certainty that felt like heat in winter. And if not, we'll build another thing. How? We'll call every night, he said. We'll send pictures of our skies. We'll mail each other a count a day, the number on our coincidence line at midnight, or the number of alpha tracks we catch in 10 minutes. We'll be the experiment. We'll look at the data at the end of summer and see whether the signal held. You want to quantify us, I said. Half laugh, half ache. I want to make the invisible visible, he answered. Like always. Saturday arrived in a sleeve of clear cold. The Physics Society hall smelled like old wood and chalk. We set the cloud chamber on a black-draped table, and it looked like a stage. The Geiger tubes perched like patient birds. At 10, the first students came, jittery with weekend energy, teachers herding them like hopeful sheep. A boy with a skateboard tucked under his arm, a girl with a sketchbook. 2 kids holding hands and not hiding it. Dr. Ames drifted like a quiet planet, correcting a cable here, tightening a clamp there, letting us be the sun. Ms. Delaney appeared for 5 minutes, nodded once at the crowd, and vanished like a benevolent. Ghost Christoph began the way he begins everything, with a story. My friend and I built this because we wanted to see what the world is too shy to tell us outright, he said. Watch. He lowered the light. The chamber misted, a faint bloom, and then white threads wrote themselves into being and erased. Themselves with the grace of breath on glass. Oh, said a chorus of teenagers and teachers, in a tone that meant a door had opened where they hadn't expected one. The Geiger rig clicked and then clicked together, a stapled sound. The laptop logged a coincidence. Christoph looked at me across the machinery, and his smile was both pride and orison. A small girl in a red coat stood on tiptoe. Are those real? She asked, pointing at the glowing tracks. As real as your voice, I said. She looked satisfied, in a way that turned my ribs to a larger house. During a lull, Ames leaned beside me. You did well, he said. You did what I meant when I said still be standing. I lied to you, I said again, quieter. You told me the truth today, he answered, which means I can keep betting on you tomorrow. He glanced at Christoph, now showing a boy how to hold the counter's cables without tangling them. He's a spark. Sparks need containers that don't smother them. Be a container. Learn to be held. It was more tenderness than I was prepared for. I opened my mouth, closed it, nodded, and swallowed gratitude like a vitamin I would keep, absorbing all day. We ended the demonstration with a small ritual. People wrote a sentence on a card about something invisible they wished to see. Someone wrote, "What my brother feels when he can't talk." Someone else, "The thought that makes..." My teacher's eyes get soft. Ms. Delaney had written, "The moment a student chooses honest over easy." I recognized the slanted E. After, we packed carefully, the way you pack away a holiday you made yourselves. The hall emptied. Snow began with the politeness of confetti. At the door, Christoph took my wrist and turned me toward him. There was no camera and no one to hurry us. Friday, he said. Friday, I echoed. I'm going, he said, and I knew he needed to say it out loud to believe that leaving was not betrayal. I'll be back in August. I'll count for you every night. I'll send you Geneva's. Sky. I'll be here, I said. I'll count too. I'll send you our tracks. I'll learn to listen to collisions that happen inside computers, and I'll wait at the airport holding a ridiculous sign. We laughed because you have to. He reached up and touched the side of my face with a hand that knew how to make a sensor work. We will not be careful, he said. We will be attentive. Promise, I said. He kissed me then, in the doorway where sunlight ought to be, and the kiss was not apology or rehearsal, but a beginning that didn't need a thesis. The week folded into its hinge. Friday came in pale and sure. Christoph met me at the cafe with 2 cups and a letter he did not yet open. We sat by the radiator again, the modern heart of every building. Together, he said. Together, I agreed, and he tore the top neatly, like he was performing a small good surgery. He read, eyes moving, breath steady. Then he looked at me and laughed, helpless and light. They apologized for the delay in sending the offer, he said. They said yes weeks ago. Of course they did, I said, and we both cried and wiped at our faces with napkins that had pastries printed on them. We walked to the river with his future folded in his pocket. The water moved like someone who knew where he was going. I thought of the first night in the lab, of the envelope falling, of all the things I had been afraid to say. The list had gotten shorter, not empty, but shorter. On Sunday, he came to my room with a small box. Inside, one of the little red LEDs. From the breadboard, leads cropped short, soldered to a coin cell with a whisper of heat-shrink tubing. He pressed his thumb to it, and it glowed, a heartbeat you could tuck into a coat pocket. For when the counts are low, he said. Proof you can make your own light. I gave him my old field notebook, the one with the problem sets and the first sketch of our chamber. In the back, I had written a scatterplot's worth of numbers, beginnings of the life we were about to measure on purpose. For when your sky is too large, I said, paper is good at keeping you human. We did not make big speeches at the bus. We did not play at tragedy. We kissed like we had a schedule, and also like time was elastic. He boarded. The bus took him, gently, the way a hand takes a hand. I stood there until the brake hiss was just air again. What we did that winter was call. We sent numbers. We made jokes about coincidence rates and lonely detectors. He sent me a video of the control room that looked like the inside of a thought. I sent him a photo of the cloud chamber we rebuilt, the tracks more dependable now, which felt like a metaphor I trusted. 2 weeks later, the fellowship email arrived. I read it 3 times and then called my mother. She cried in the part of her that is soup and worry both. You always know, she said, and for once it felt like blessing, not a curse. At night, when the heater clicked and the campus quieted into the sound of trains, I lay awake and counted. Not sheep, coincidences across a continent, tracks blooming. On film. Emails from a boy who had turned the universe into music and invited me to listen. We did our first experiment when I was 20 and Christoph was 18. It was messy and rule-breaking and filled with a fear that tasted like rain. It gave us ghost trails and a nearly written-up citation and the truest pattern I have ever read. That you can choose the shape of your apparatus, but you cannot choose the world away. You can, however, decide to meet it with your whole hands, your honest name, and the person who makes your courage increase like a count in a quiet room. By August, the numbers on our private plot had arranged themselves into one undeniable line. He stepped into arrivals and my ridiculous sign said coincidence. He laughed, and then the airport became a lab where all the instruments agreed. We had proof. We held it between us, careful and sure, the way you hold a light you made yourselves.